I'm Alan Pellicani with Congressman Isa's office. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for getting this dialogue going. And this is Dasayev. He's an intern with us, so he'll be staffing it tonight.
I'm Andrew Hayes. I'm Senator Brian Jones, the District Director, and we're really happy to have this meeting tonight. And this is a first step for us. The Senator's whole goal is to try to get the ball moving. Pushing what in government, what ends up happening is things just spiral and keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going and never end. So we want to make sure that we have somewhere to let's start somewhere, and let's have another meeting in Alpine, and maybe if we need to have another, we'll have another, right? So I mean, this is about moving the ball. The Center is about trying to move the ball so we can get something done. So that's kind of the idea here. So appreciate you coming here. We'll have another one so there's more ability to workshop, and that's what this is. This is a workshop, so it's conversational, and that's the idea. And I'm Andrew. This is Kyle. Introduce yourself, sir.
I'm Kyle Herman, also from Senator Jones's office. I'm one of the district representatives.
Okay, we have some staff here. I think we have East County Magazine, and I think we have Fox 5. And
Fox News.
Fox News, yeah, Fox 5.
Yay.
So, and then,
We have County Parks and Rec, right?
yeah, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
My name is Lauren Raddick. I'm a senior park ranger for the Department of Parks and Recreation, San Diego County, and I'm here just to listen and report to our management.
All right, well, thank you. So the reason why we're here is AB Assembly Bill 102 that set the budget, allocated $750,000 to Sweetwater Authority for what's described as Loveland Trail improvements. And that's really all we have as far as guidelines. So it's pretty open. It's certainly applaud Senator Jones and his staff for really vouching for this program. And it's very, sometimes very rare to get a grant that has very few strings attached. So we are basically looking at community, certainly the East County community and our ratepayers, to give us feedback. What do you want to see? What are your priorities, right? We need to submit a work plan to Department of Water Resources. Once they approve that work plan, then that means that we can start getting money to do whatever we need to do. So it's certainly, it's a lot of money, but at the same time, it's not a lot of money, right? Loveland, as I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the trail, it's challenging, access is hard. So it means that any type of work, any type of construction takes probably significant impacts to get heavy equipment. So just keep that in mind as we have a lot of ideas. We're not saying, if we have ideas that exceed that budget, this is good to have. Who knows, maybe we can continue working with our partners at the local, county, state, federal governments to try to get more money, right? As Andrew mentioned, this is a start. So again, I really appreciate all of you driving here. I understand, and I recognize that you may have gotten the notice a little bit too late. My commitment, I did share this earlier with Fox 5. We think this is start of a conversation, right? We do expect to continue this dialogue. So we are committed to going to East County to continue the conversation. Unfortunately, we had challenges to get a venue over there, but we are looking maybe January.
February, and actually I asked members of the community to send dates over. We received some of those, so I want to look and check with schedules and go through that, and then go to East County. I just want to say that when we talked about the late notice and all the rest, it was Sweetwater that brought up let's go to East County too. So I mean, this is we're trying to have a partnership in this process with you and with all of us, government agencies as well. So the idea here is to make sure that we're serving you. So that's our job. So anyway, I wanted to make that comment.
Thanks, Andrew. So again, I reaffirm our commitment that we don't expect that this is going to be it, right? there's no hard deadline per se, again, as far as when we need to submit a work plan to DWR. But, you know, to me, the sooner we do this, then the sooner we have access to funding and hopefully able to, you know, get something done. So I think before I open it for comments, you know, just really encourage you to try to keep this positive. I know there's a lot of history, a lot of background, and you know, we have a really good opportunity to do something, right, to improve the program. I mean, that's why we're here. You know, we thank our federal and certainly Senator Brian Jones' staff, you know, for you know, being here. I mean, also, you know, it's part of the work that we do. So with that said, it's really open. I mean, you raise your hand. You know, just we're here to listen. You know, I mean, things, we'll probably have to look at proposals individually and really try to come up with a cost somewhere. I mean, again, we have, our intent, I'll be frank, is, we did work with, our, legislative advisor and try to get a request for funding to rebuild the bridge. Basically, the area was eroded and there's no way to get from one side of the trail to the other. So we do hope that there's interest in funding a bridge using this grant. And I think that's something that would benefit the program. You know, the fishing float was washed away, you know, regardless of the circumstances. So we're working with our insurance company to try to get that reimbursed. So there will be the opportunity to do that. And you know, with that said, any other?
I would just say that, you know, the purpose, as it was titled, is this is a workshop. So, you know, like, we're here to work, right? We're here to go through items, we're here to go through, you know, numerous different things, and there's probably gonna be questions, right, about, because look, this is very broad, this is, as was alluded to, so wanna make sure that we're drilling down on things that we can make sure we understand fully as we move forward. The other thing that I would also encourage you to know is, you know, when looking at these ideas, it would be good for us to say, okay, what is the price tag on this, right? What is it gonna look like, right? Mm-hmm. Because the fact of the matter is, you know, $750,000 is a heck of a lot, right? But it's a heck of not of a lot, right? So I wanna make sure that we're really being thoughtful about drilling in on criteria. And this is stuff that the senator kind of wanted me to portray to you all, is that, you know, we wanna make sure that we're being helpful, drilling down and getting those ideas. And so that way we can then have try to get community consensus around what it looks like. So that's the idea of a workshop. Hence why it's not a formal meeting where there's Brown Act requirements and all the rest. Like, this is really important for us to be able to dialogue. So I just want you all to know that that's kind of my thought. And then we can set standards and criteria and ask questions and go from there.
I'm happy to start.
Sure,
Start
yeah,
at
if you
a high
wanna-
level, so
Okay.
that we're all in the same, knowledge base. Can you explain, what's the property that Sweetwater Authority has, jurisdiction over, and how the adjacent state properties and federal properties, the Cleveland National Forest, interact, because these existing roads and trails cross through different properties, and I don't quite have a handle even, like, on how that works with Sweetwater.
So, the actual trail is actually Sweetwater Authority property.
Okay,
An easement was granted to the Forest Service. So, the Forest Service is the administrator of the easement.
okay,
So that is really the link here. I'm not sure what other property you're.
okay, well, there's state park, there's state land to the south.
There's adjacent, there's the riding trail.
A little bit of overview, CHRT, the California Riding
Yeah.
Hiking Trail, runs
Is
through,
that
runs through the
closed now?
property.
I heard it might be closed, no?
No,
It is
no,
not
no.
closed,
Okay.
no, it's very much
That's
open,
it,
it's
and
well
then-
maintained, it's well utilized, and it runs through the property, and we have a hope, and, I've invited the Mountain Bike Association and the equestrian users, there's a hope of maybe getting that off of Sequan Truck Trail and back onto Sweetwater property, where it's a much safer passage. It would be well within the limits of all state regulations, water board regulations, everything else.
Yeah.
High side or low side, there's a number of utility roads and service roads and alternative alignments that would get that off of Sequan Truck Trail, so I think that's part of what they're
The
asking. And
California Riding Trail?
in conjunction with that,
Yes.
there's the old West Boundaries Trail,
Yeah.
the Forest Road, that's now your main service road. there's some ways without a lot of money to put a couple of signs and a couple of horse gates up and have a beautiful regional transportation hub and recreational resource.
Okay, well, there's.
Depending-
It
Yeah,
involves
just
more
might
than
go-
just the easement that's no longer being
Okay,
administered.
let me just understand this, so your proposal is to try to enhance not necessarily the Loveland Trail, our trail, but working to enhance the California riding and hiking trail?
To enhance the county trails master plan, as well as the regional recreational access hub, as Senator Jones had granted the money for Loveland Reservoir, not the Forest Service easement. It's to improve access to Loveland Reservoir.
Okay, alright, that's a good
There's
idea.
an existing road there.
Yeah.
The existing road was used for your access from the private dam.
Not,
The dam
Upper
people,
Tool,
I think
right?
that's what you're talking about is the
There's a number of
road.
internal service roads and forest service roads that
So
are
your old dam
within the
keeper used
property
to
boundaries
access
of
that.
Loveland Reservoir.
Off
Did-
of
did you
Sequan
know-
Truck
you know
Trail, right?
Yes.
He's getting confused, he thinks it's off of.
This goes to what I was, if you happen to have a map of Loveland, of the reservoir around, the picture says 1,000 words, and then we can just point to exactly what we're talking about.
Somebody might ask that people.
That's a good one for
We
next
have
one.
one. Yeah, we have one as well.
Yeah, there's actually a number of.
It would be just so much easier.
I'm not- I don't wanna speak to people's
For ADA access.
back,
and-
but I have some comments, just broad comments. I'm Karen Henry, I'm a Bonita resident, and I'm a retired professional engineer with decades of public agency experience. I offered the general manager advice at the Community Advisory Work Group meeting back in October, in front of everyone, just like this. That advice was not included in the work group meeting summary, which is posted on the Sweetwater Authority's website. So I'm here to share my suggestion again. I believe that these trail improvements would benefit from a charrette. A charrette is a meeting in which all stakeholders attempt to resolve conflicts and map solutions. A charrette is an intensive, multidisciplinary workshop with the aim of developing a design or a vision for a project or a planning activity. The ones I participated in were conducted in the community near the project. The ones I participated in were included the nearby residents. The ones I participated in selected a facilitator that the community held in high regard. So, the ones I participated in were successful. This collaborative roundtable is not a charrette. You need a map, you need a facilitator. I believe my suggestion did not get traction for two reasons. One is the Sweetwater Authority does not view Alpine residents as stakeholders. And number two, the general manager has decided how best to use these grant funds. And it's obvious to anyone who's spent as much time as I have in this boardroom, the Sweetwater Authority does what they want, the way they want, without regard for others. Shared decision-making is not something the Sweetwater Authority is familiar with. So those from the senator's office, if you want Alpine residents to have a say in these trail improvements, you need to make your expectations crystal clear and stick around to ensure that things happen to your satisfaction. And I have a hard copy of my comments for whoever's doing the minute taking.
We'll take a copy, straight over.
That's two.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you,
Okay,
Karen.
Yes?
Hi, my name is Carolyn. Just along those lines, since the meeting was announced, I've asked several times if we would be able to project an image, since we're talking about trails. It's really hard to have, we can already see that it's hard to have the conversation if we don't have a map to look at. And, I was just wondering if it would be possible. I sent the images forward via email, and I also provided a flash drive today. And I just think it would be helpful just to project a map of the area, so when, like, the first woman asked if she could see the property.
Yeah, we can get IS to check the.
We do have a map here, you're welcome, mate.
We are very tight about security, unfortunately.
No, but is there just a way like to pull up on your website a map for this?
Can we do that?
Google Earth. Google Earth, there are a lot of experts out there that can go up with their fingers and point out things on Google Earth.
That would be great.
Yeah,
It would
it's not
just-
high security, like.
I think it
Yeah,
would really
I'm
help
sure
us
that'll be okay.
be on the
Thank
same
you.
page when we talk
Yeah,
about
just
it.
give us a second. Somebody can
Google
figure
Earth
it
would be wonderful.
Thank you so much. Oh,
It may impact, well, we may be able to project it on this screen. If we do that, you may have to because the screen's right above you. Yeah.
Let me know.
Yeah, we'll deal with it. Just give us a second. Okay, anything else?
Where do you want me?
Yes, please.
Either side?
Go ahead while we do that.
Yes,
You can really set and just watch.
I'll just let her.
Anywhere you want, you can set up.
Okay.
Back there if you want.
Oh, just on the note about the next meeting, could we identify like who's going to be the contact person for where, when, and ensure that we have access to AV equipment so that we can do
Yeah.
presentations?
So here's what I'm thinking, if it's okay. What I'd like to do is I'd like to close with those action items towards the end of the workshop. That way, we walk away with the standard. So that way we can get through the comments and kind of the ideas and the proposals and go through that meat. And then at the end, we can close with the actions.
Okay.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
I'm sure you have a lot of volunteers in the room who would be very happy to help set up
And
a meeting.
I'm happy to ask people to help. I just think we do it.
Yeah, well, no, there's
towards the end.
lots of people in this room who really help facilitate
And
that, so we
I have it right
happy
here.
to help, okay?
Don't worry, I won't forget, I promise.
Okay, thank you.
I think if we sort of have an idea as to when that might take place, I think it'll be easier. We have probably a few weeks, so we can try to do it. Yeah, sometime in January probably. I don't know exactly when. I mean, we commit to doing it on evenings to allow more people.
My immediate question would be to, you, the board members of Sweetwater. What is your intention?
We're not the board members, we're just staff.
Well, then the foot soldiers.
Yeah.
This is directed to Sweetwater. What is your intention on restocking the fish? When is this gonna get going?
I'm not gonna talk about operational issues. If there's an interest in using some of this ground for restocking today,
Yeah.
you can bring it up as an idea.
You guys,
I'm sorry, I'm not dealing with operation. I'm not gonna
You
answer
guys-
operational questions.
wiped out the fish, wiped out the stock, and you guys should bring them back. And separate from the grant for trails.
Well, it's all predicated on water. And I don't hear a lot about ensuring the water level.
That's
I've never
another-
heard.
These are operational matters. I think it goes beyond the way to use this ground. So I'm just not gonna really answer this.
It's asking for a commitment from Sweetwater to maintain the minimum level that has already been agreed upon.
Water, are they fishing trails or are they trails to?
I'm sorry, there's no answer for Sweetwater Authority at this point on those questions. We're talking about the ground, not about the user.
This is a meeting to cover a whole lot of issues.
It's
And-
about the $750,000 grant that we received.
In context, it's trails.
Yeah.
Part of the trails are within a fishing program.
I understand.
If we don't know where the boundaries of the fishing program or the parameters of the water lines are gonna be, we can't design trails to the water line unless we build in some flexibility that if water level drops below this point, the program moves with the water. It is a sustenance fishing program with trails and money built, but money to build trails to a fishing easement or a fishing program outside the easement.
anything related to, ideas on how to spend the grant?
My name's David Thomas, and I've been fishing at Loveland for 40 years. So I've hiked every trail out there, maybe most of the trails that probably I wasn't supposed to be on. So I know the area pretty well. My biggest problem with what's going on out there is the fact that it's dangerous. You got a lot of people showing up at that parking lot that have no idea what they're walking into. And they walk down there and the young kids, and I've seen this many a times, see the fish on the other side and they go off and try to get around to the other side. One day you're gonna have a problem out there because there's gonna be young kids that get hurt because of the fact that we don't have good trail system around that lake for kids to get to where they need to go. That $750,000 could go a long ways in hiring crews to go out there and cut trail around that lake that makes access to the whole fishing area, not just that little area that's down there when you walk to the bottom of the trail, but all the way around. That bluff that's on the one side is really dangerous. I've seen many of people fall off of that and get hurt. You should cut a fairly good trail through that. That bluff is seriously dangerous. The rocks that fall off of that when people are down below can land on people. It's a huge liability. I really think that if you took some of that $750,000, had a trail crew out there work on just trails around the outside of that lake, it would make a huge amount of difference. The other thing is, and I know you said the amount of money that it takes to get equipment in there, but if you could put a bridge from one side to the other side so that whole side is accessible for fishing, that gives us a whole lot more shoreline during higher water areas to fish. And it's just ideas. I understand that getting stuff down there is big, but you put a bridge across there and it makes a huge thing for us to get to that other side and fish, which is really about getting people access to going in there. You stick a whole bunch of people in a tight area, it's not fun.
David, where specifically would you recommend a bridge goes?
So if you walk down the trail, about where the fishing float is now, if you even could use that fishing.
Parking lot, can you point maybe
Yeah, okay, so the parking lot
you see
is.
the white spot up there?
Oh, right.
No, it's way up there.
Way up there.
So that's the parking
Okay,
spot.
so it comes down. So the narrows, so when.
I mean, can you go,
Right.
can you pound that way? So that's the
Parking lot, and then you come down the
Right
trail.
now, the water's probably up to here.
Okay.
So what we're looking at is, we're
Mhm.
doing a study to put a bridge from this side to this side, so you
Right.
can actually come down this way.
Right. Yeah, I'm talking about getting to the other side of the lake over to the Humul side. Because the Humul side never gets to be fished when the water's up. And when the water's down really low, there's nothing to fish anyway. So I'm talking about when the water's up, if we had a bridge, if you know where your fishing float is now, you gotta rebuild that because it's damaged. It would not be hard to put another section off to get across to the other side of the lake.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly write
Right.
this as an idea, but
Absolutely.
certainly a bridge over the river. You know, we are working on jurisdictional waters of the U.S. and
Right.
We'll have to be Army Corps of Engineers buying on this.
Right, I understand.
Regional water quality, I mean.
It was permitted in the early 2000s, it was permitted and it was granted by HUD. And instead of
Not the
building
Army
it.
Corps?
It's 401 cert.
401 is
401
the regional water quality.
Army Corps waived it. So you have all these records. And so what happened, there was a similar sized grant to
So
build.
where do you propose the access also?
Okay. No, and I'm not saying that, so if we can get, these are, we call these, can we go up a little bit here? So actually, Mr. Quintero, the water level is in here right now. And so, this is really nice, whoever put this line here, thank you. Now the lake, folks, goes way up here, and we got water pretty much up in there at 83%, just so people know the lake is here. So it's impossible to get around here and fish. So somebody does have a picture of a footbridge here. If we could use the SDG&E easement, make a little alignment through here, and use this, so we wanted, I would think, I know David's talking about here. The issue with here, if the water's down here, then what's the point of the bridge? You just walk through the ditch. What the previous grant had was a bridge right about here. And so that was funded, but the money came back here instead.
This is, I mean, we can certainly try to take a look at this. I don't know if that's.
Just take a look at it. to start putting some
But,
effort
you know,
into
again,
it.
these are good ideas, I think we're taking note, and if there's an opportunity to reach out to our partners and enhance the money that we have.
So while I'm up here really quickly, this area here, we can use all this. And the reason to spend the money here would only be to make it ADA access and really wheelchair accessible. Because, which I'm now, you're wincing because I don't think you're making it ADA accessible, but to spend money in here, we can fish fine here. This is the easiest place to fish in the lake. So when we did our broad sourcing, what we found out from anglers is the thing that matters most to them is to get around the lake easier. So why spend money getting to a place that's already the easiest place in the lake to fish? And so,
and safely too. I
It's
really,
the safest
I really
and easiest
think
place
that,
to
you know,
fish already.
if you go down there and you walk on these trails that we've created, because that's who's created most of the trails around the lake, you'll see that I'm a good hiker. I've hiked the Pacific Crest Trail. I've hiked, a lot of stuff. Some of my most dangerous hiking I've ever had in my life is around this lake because of the fact that we don't have any maintained trails. To get a crew in there and do some trail work, really the trail work is not that big. I mean, I've worked on trail crews with the Pacific Crest Trail, and we've cut way harder trail than anything around here. It's just the fact that we don't have that yet.
I mean, this is a very valid concept that we can consider. I mean, I certainly.
Will you show me again the trail that you're talking about?
Oh, well.
Or that you think.
Well, unfortunately, we have different trails. So this is the bluff that I'm talking about right here, and it's basically a rock thing, and we've cut trail where we kind of, you can kind of see here, and we have many different lines depending on what the conditions are, and our trails go away because we're not maintaining them, so they'll break off. So when we're going across that bluff, sometimes we'll lose that part and we have to go to a lower part, or we'll be way up high because of the fact that we have to get over that bluff. And really with some good, you brought in some jackhammers and stuff like that, roto hammers, electric with generators. They do it all the time out on big trails, and you rotor hammer some of that stuff out, you make a trail that's totally safe to get over that bluff.
And there's kind of a free flow now, like the trail ends and there's the water. And before, when the water level was lower, you could actually continue to walk, but now that that's in the water, there's really no definite trails. So the recommendation, I think, is good. We can consider that and maybe setting some of these trails to get more access, right?
And I'm sure we would love to go down there with you and show you where the trail should probably be, and I've spent so much time hiking that stuff. I could show you that the best trail that would be, the one to cut.
I work with the Cuyamaca State Park Trail Team. Susie Murphy works with them and has worked with them in the past, as well as the Laguna volunteer crews. Their crews are fully vetted, fully trained, so by all state standards, all the required stuff. They have the technology, they have the tools, they have the manpower. We're ready to go out there and do good quality work to make this a true gem.
I understand.
A true regional resource.
Exactly, and 750,000 would go a long ways with that. I mean, when I worked on the Pacific Crest Crew, I mean, we did a lot of work out there for like way less than.
I must just put a parenthesis there. We're a public agency. We have rules to follow as far as CEQA, and we're willing to do that. I mean, don't get us wrong. And as far as the project, it has to be done in the prevailing wage. That's the law. So we would have to. I mean, I understand. I really appreciate what you're offering.
That's not correct.
That's a what you decide to do has to be done under all those same circumstances, sir.
What's that?
What you decide to do what you decide to do has to be done under all those same circumstances as well. So if you choose to do what you want to do, it has to do it as well.
I believe most of this actually falls within operational discretion, just like emptying the reservoir. Within the parameters of the existing easements and existing programs, you have the authority, CEQA exempt on pre-existing roads, trails, and conditions, to waive those as an operational decision on your
Some
part.
work we can do in-house. If we outsource this work, it has to be under certain rules.
Yeah, if the contracts, we understand, if it's a contract, it has to
rules
be.
for you, but not for Cuyamaca State Park and or Laguna?
Of course it does.
Because they both have volunteer organizations. Cuyamaca State Equestrian Association, they're in charge of maintaining the trails. The same with Laguna. So
we don't have a program. I mean, we can work that we Well,
Well,
contact the legal counsel.
that's
There's
what
just
I think.
liability, there's insurance issues.
This is, so, as,
Yeah.
I didn't really introduce myself, but I'm Susie Murphy, I'm executive director of the San Diego Mountain Association. We're a California contractor. So we have mini excavator, we have the compactors, we have all the things, we have all the toys. And we're doing work for City of Carlsbad, City of San Marcos, City of San Diego, the Forest Service, paid. Working on a new project we're just gonna start soon, as soon as we get a little bit of rain, is Loveland Water District. So we're doing this work professionally as professional trail contractors. We're the only ones in San Diego doing that work. It's a way better value than, we would recommend not hiring any firms like ACE or CCC. Yeah, we're doing it with them. We'd love to do it with Sweetwater. We'd love to do it with Sweetwater.
I'm not saying no, I'm just saying there's rules we need to follow, right? And if you can guarantee
we love
that
the
you're paying
paperwork.
minimum living wage, then if we can get an exception and we can talk to legal counsel, we'll do it.
And you
Plenty
actually
of
have,
precedents being set for us.
so while on that, you have an old road alignment that comes right down here to this arrow. It crosses the old bridge abutments that are there, but you can take that up and around here. We also have the CHRT that comes in and crosses with the closed parking lot here, it can be reopened. We have these roads here. There's a parking lot right here that's on Forest Service land that has a Sweetwater lock on it. It's an old CHRT parking lot, and it's right here on Forest Service land, but it has your lock on it, and we can't open that lot for the equestrian users to, or
Do
hikers.
we have gates there?
Yeah, we have gates. John, I'm sorry, can you just say what CHRT
That's
is
the
for
California
everybody?
Riding and Hiking Trail.
California Hiking.
Riding and hiking trails.
And this is it right here. It runs all the way around the perimeter. It comes right across the reservoir here. It comes along this alignment above the road, and it crosses the river. It comes right along here into this parking lot, way over here on the switchback, and crossing it all the way up into Queen Maca.
That's what you were.
It actually goes to Anza. It goes from
Yeah.
Otay Lakes to Anza Borrego.
And the challenge, if I'm understanding this correctly, is the gate.
There's no parking. The sunrise to sunset limitations with the shortening of hours. This is the only safe parking in the region for the users of that regional trail network. Hiking, ultra running, mountain biking, equestrian, all get shut down when that gate closes. For 3 hours in the summer, we can't use those trails, and it's 97 degrees before sunset, at 4 o'clock. So we need that sunrise to sunset for a reason. That's when our community can use those trails, both internal and external. And that was part of that easement was granted.
So you're recommending they open up the parking lot?
They need to
over
open this lot. They could have ADA access to the east side.
That's a county parking lot, can you maybe?
So it's something to work on. We have things that wouldn't cost a lot of money, existing resources that just need to be cleaned up, so they're ready to go, they're potentially CEQA exempt for county board of supervisors or you guys or whoever has to make those decisions. But you have an old road alignment that comes across that bridge. It runs right along here if you look closely, and it crosses. Right here, there's another abutment that crosses Taylor Creek. Very inexpensive bridge versus a massive crossing over here. We can cross this creek on an old existing road alignment. There's options. There's options. Yeah, there's options. There's things to think about and talk about that are lower cost, that are quite doable. We all work with federal, state, and local agencies and Parks and Rec and trail communities. We know there's options, we know there's possibilities. Please work with us.
That sounds like might be the best bang for the buck. I mean,
Can I just ask?
Well, that's
can I-
it.
Before I get there, can I just ask? I just want to understand fully. When you're talking about the obstacles there to this, right? The county. I just want to understand like what the lay of the land is. So is it county property that a county lock is on, or is it county property but it's somebody else? It's a federal gate.
Sweetwater
or-
property with a state easement, Sweetwater locks to a federal property with the Sweetwater lock.
Forest Service, it's US Forest Service property, it is not county property. That's part of the Cleveland
That's part of-
National Forest
Okay, so that-
alongside the Sweetwater River there,
The
correct?
county and the state are working together right now in transferring files and trying to find a way to fund and maintain the California Riding and Hiking Trail more effectively than it has been. It's not dead, it is maintained, contrary to some statements. It's very much utilized and appreciated and valued by this region, and like I said, we're talking about a county who has these big agendas for alternate modalities, carbon reduction, less vehicle miles driven. We just passed Wrights Field. There's a potential to tie Wrights Field into this. There's a potential. We already have the tie all the way up to Cuyamaca and down into the desert. We already have a tie down to Otay if we can get the state, Fish and Game, or Wildlife, whatever they're going by now, to allow us to enter public lands, just like Sweetwater, public lands, public trails, pre-existing, state easement intact. Let's work with this.
And
Let's
have
get
they-
all, everybody on the same team. It already exists. There's nothing new. All we have to do is maintain what's there. And $750 goes a long way to get that open, and then it can be enhanced with what's left.
Is the county attempting to do a land swap with the state?
I am not sure of the details on that. I was hoping that Alex from Sacramento, Alexander Stell, is the state coordinator. She promised her representative here. They were not able to make it. They were, or
Well, make sure you connect.
hopefully be at the next meeting.
Make sure you connect with them, please.
Oh, absolutely.
Because this is similar.
They
to
were
the
gonna
issue
have,
we're
they promised a
facing.
body down here today.
This
This
is
is
like
why they know nobody made it.
It's like Bowden King. Oh, okay, I understand.
Sorry. I think that's an important distinction that John is making. I mean, there's more in fishing at stake here. There's a lot of people that would love to get out and hike. I could walk to this place from my house. And I would love to bring my dog.
Dogs are not allowed, it's a water, it's a drinking water facility.
You know, I keep
I'm
hearing that,
sorry.
but why are they allowed at every other lake in San Diego County?
It's a division of drinking water.
Well, but these are drinking water lakes as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We
How
have
do you
that
restrict the
over
wildlife?
The
Yeah.
restriction is a certain number of feet from the
You know,
water,
that's a really good
and when you
question.
drain your reservoir and you do the transfer, the controlled transfer to
And I don't
Sweetwater,
have
you
an
pass
answer
through
to
3
this.
dog
You have to
training
do it.
facilities.
Because I've heard that.
You're running your drinking water through 3 dog training facilities and a sewage treatment plant to get it down to Sweetwater.
We're dealing with this issue at Sweetwater Reservoir, and there's been a sort of a hold on working with the county precisely because of maintenance requirements, because of pets. So it is a real thing. Eric, you have any been sort of involved in this? Anything we do, any changes have to be approved by Division of Drinking Water, because it is a drinking water source. So, again, I did mention that there's some issues we have to deal with. SEQA is one of them, approval from DPW. I can't commit really either way. Whatever we decide, we'll have to reach out to them and get approval.
I think we would just ask you to commit to keeping an open mind. There are
We are.
plenty of other reservoirs that have horses, that have dogs, that have bikes, that have all the things we're talking about. It's all possible with the approvals and the
I
permissions
understand,
that you're speaking to.
100%. I think the issue becomes a maintenance issue. I know we're dealing with the horses. I know there's a lot of equestrian, inclined residents in the area that like to see horses. But certainly, maintenance is an issue, right? So we are required to have a commitment from the county on the county trail to deal with these things.
And we're working on that.
Yeah. So just, I'm not saying either way. If somehow we get that commitment, then it's an issue. But certainly dogs, as far as the most common pet, it is an issue. So
Operationally, be aware that you have a ton of dogs in the parking lot. Most people honor not taking them down into the reservoir proper, but they park at the lot because they live in apartments in Alpine. They walk their dogs in the lot, and they walk their dogs over across the street on the same side too. You have dogs there.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. Yes, sir.
What is the projected timeframe for this insurance process?
For the float?
For the HUD funded fishing clear?
It's a good question. I think we're moving forward with the claim, and they're looking at approving it.
That's very vague.
I know. I
You
just
don't have anything more
details.
concrete in this professional
I
environment.
don't. I can get an update, and
Maybe you could send that to him.
sure I can send it out.
Feel free.
I'll check it with our risk manager and get an update.
Can you share Sweetwater's plans for Loveland?
I'm not
whatever.
following.
Upgrades
for
the reservoir itself?
No, I mean, we're working on, trying to replace a valve, on the stairs, as far as the dam goes.
So no government funding for upgrades, infrastructure, anything like that?
Certainly welcome any funding to help with that.
Yeah, they try on the dam.
The dam has a valve. It's, this dam was built in 1940s. The valve is a cone valve. It's leaking some. I mean, nothing certainly that is like an emergency in any way. But, at some point we have to deal with it.
There was a $10 million grant application in the federal year prior for the stairwell.
Oh, the stairwell.
It
Yeah,
didn't
the
make it.
stairwell has some, we actually have to tie.
$10 million grant
these
from
steel
Randy
cable.
Gold.
You have to harness yourself as you're going down.
I'm just throwing out that being part of the Living Coast Discovery Center and board and working with the cities and so forth,
Yeah.
that I I think if you embrace this Loveland Reservoir, Friends of Loveland Reservoir, and we can help you in those fashions.
If I recall, and first of all, thank you, I detect a different tone to the prior meetings, and I appreciate that. If I recall from the Alpine meeting, was I mistaken in that there was money already allocated for the reinforcement of the dam? The dam
Stairs
portion.
or the,
That's called stairs.
well,
Because, and that ties into my concern that are we going to maintain water levels? Are we going to have water to fish? And I never have heard a commitment. So if you did get funding to reinforce what I heard was maybe some deteriorating conditions, that would help me believe that, oh, they're putting money into reinforcing. Now they can't use any excuse, so to speak, that, oh, it's not going to support higher water levels. We can't put more. Okay, go
no,
ahead.
there's no concern about that. I mean, the valve is, we're looking at it.
Is the only concern.
I believe you're referring to Sweetwater
You
Dam.
might be referring to Sweetwater Dam.
Not Loveland.
No, it was the Loveland.
Yeah,
That was
no.
the Alpine meeting.
Yeah.
There were some
There's
discussion
no
about it.
issues on that.
It's
You
probably
remember,
innuendo.
maybe Russell?
It felt like innuendo, Mr. Quintero. It felt like innuendo about whether we couldn't have what we wanted because the dam might be no good. And so there was this, it felt like innuendo to everybody in the audience that was familiar with it. That's all we're saying.
I'm not following, but, yeah, let's focus on this guy.
So, is anyone talking about water levels yet?
Yeah,
at
no,
your
that's
end?
I mean, I think I explained that's an operational issue, and I'm just not gonna discuss operational issues.
But you're in charge of all the operational issues. That's what you also told us in Alpine, that you're in charge of
I am,
all
but
operational.
we're here to discuss how to best use this ground. So I'd like to choose a discussion.
Don had his.
Yeah,
hand
yeah,
up in the
go
back,
ahead.
And then we'll go
So,
to
you know, from a lot of the different aspects of the different meetings, you know, I've seen several times. And we're talking about the 750K, and I understand operational. We get that, we understand that 100%. But also understand as a California resident taxpayer, we wanna ensure our money goes where it goes. So there's still a little bit of trust, respect, those are top words in my vocabulary. So I'm hoping that you're seeing that from us coming out from East County, that we understand what happened in the past. But if you cannot give us that little bit of respect and, you know, trust back to us, that's where it's gonna have to be. It's gonna have to be a working relationship. It can't be a one-way. But if the pretense is gonna be a one-way street, like the streets downtown San Diego, it's not gonna work. So we need to open up. And I know about, you know, you're talking about an organization, public agency, talking about legal counsel. We understand the operations, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. But has Sweetwater ever thought about a program, and I've seen it called self-help? And through signing waivers, that people can come out physically, as long as it's a legal binding in a court of law, even Superior Court downtown here, it's legal binding. If we sign waivers for self-help projects for us to come out there and help some of these trails, and it relieves this organization of any issues of accidents that have happened, and that can happen. There's a lot of self-help. Sacramento has it, and I believe that's the head point of this whole, you know, thing. We need to get word from Sacramento. If we can sign waivers saying, hey, and we get, you know, say 5 or 6 of us cutting down there, cutting trails to help out certain things, to work with your organization to relieve the financial obligation of the 750K, that's what we call friendship and partnership. And I think that's what we're trying to do from East County. We're not here to be enemies. This is not a football game. It's not the Super Bowl. But we need to open up knowing if we do that, that there's mutual respect going back and forth. We're all in the same state, but it's like sometimes these, like, you know, John was speaking about the pre-meetings before, it was like a dog fight. And that's not what we're here. We're here to work with, yes, you're in Chula Vista. Okay, we're in Alpine. I'm in El Cajon, but I go to Sweetwater. I go there beautiful 3 weeks ago. The most beautiful thing I've ever seen was a young family, no fishing pole, no hiking boots. A little girl, 3 years old, wanted to see the little coots floating across the water. And she was just ecstatic about that. A couple bass in the cart come up, she goes, Daddy, Daddy, look at the fish. That's what it's all about. You know, we all go home at night, we see our families. And that's what this whole thing's about, is improving East County, improving the atmosphere. But we need to stop the fights. We need to have respect for all citizens. We're all residents of California. Let's work together harmoniously. You know, I come out and talk about the vets. I know I've got pounded on a couple times about talking about vets, but a lot of vets that I ran into when I went down here, I get to talking to them and have fellowship with them, and they talk about, you know, this is the only place I could come. You know, after I see my best friend in Afghanistan lose it here, and he's freaking out about it, he goes out there to fish. Yes, we know Sweetwater's open, so is Jennings, El Cap, and everything. But Loveland, there's something peaceful, serenity. A lot of those guys go out there with PTSD, and after they leave there, they just feel like, you know, God has reached out to me. The Savior's reached down to me and gave me peace. That's for the veterans aspect. I know others are talking about different other things, but from the veterans aspect, that's what touches my heart. And that's what touches, I mean, we're talking right here, National City. You got 32nd Street, you got the amphibious base, you got the SEAL teams, you got North Island. These guys go out there. I'll touch just a little bit on the sunrise sunset, because I know it's a very touchy subject. But that sunset, when the time that the guys get off the ships here and get out there, the gates close. So that's where I come at with the sunset. I understand where you're coming from, the sunset. You got to get your driver from Sweetwater up to close the gate. I get it. I know it's this. But at the same time, sometimes we have to give just a little bit to receive the working relationship.
I appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
You know, I think this concept of self-help, I mean, we can certainly write it down. We can reach out to our legal counsel and see if there's an opportunity for that. So we appreciate that.
So from the congressman's, you know, I spoke to the congressman this morning pretty extensively on this issue. And from our understanding, you know, with Sweetwater, it's a maintenance and liability issue. And, you know, I actually really like the idea of that. And, you know, you have a lot of eager people with the groups, like, you know, the Friends of Loveland, who are, you know, interested in, you know, helping to maintain. So if there was some course of action, whether it's signing off on a legally binding contract where they say, hey, you know, you guys aren't liable, but we're here to help maintain this walking path, that's something we'd, you know, be happy to see happen. Because, again, the word that was used was partnership, and that's correct. You know, we're all here working together. We all want to see this no longer have to have any of these meetings, I think, right? And so the idea is to have everyone happy at the end of this. So that's something that's really interested, that we would love to see explored down the line.
We appreciate that. I mean, if we get that type of initiative, I mean, if we get the legal counsel, that means that we have more money to spend on something else, because that's what it means. So certainly a fan of that.
And looking at the seven, you know, one of the things that was brought up too was safety as a priority. Would, you know, whether it's, you know, lighting the walking paths, or, you know, going toward, again, maintaining, again, not lighting, just spitballing here, just, you know, continuing to maintain these paths here. Is that possible? Is that something we can look at?
We're open to ideas. I mean, certainly putting lights, maybe solar panels, something. I mean, something we can look at. I don't know what that would do. I have to do the evaluation for wildlife, because, you know, you need to have a schedule of some sort. You know, a lot of these are perimeter trails. I mean, it's kind of what you have in the Cleveland National Forest. You go and hike at your own risk.
See,
it's there. It's
I'm not stuck to lighting. I'm sorry. I use lighting, and now it's like I'm the lighting guy. I'm not the lighting guy. I was just saying that, you know, get it out of here. Sorry. I'm sorry. That wasn't my intention. My intention was safety improvements or enhancements around the trail. You know what I mean?
But let me offer maybe an idea. Maybe this parking lot is important, that's what I hear. Maybe we have a way to keep the parking lot open at all times with some lighting, right? And then we just have to put a gate for the trail just because of safety. You don't want anybody going around there. But, I mean, if we can figure out a way to do that, and this is a benefit to whoever's driving, or some of the residents, we just have to have a lot of light, maybe coordinate with law enforcement, we just don't, people just go camp out there, I mean, certainly, we just wanna provide a service, right? And maybe that's something that it's worthwhile writing down, and we can look at that if you think it's a reasonable thing to do.
Everybody would love to see the existing agreement adhered to. That's already covered. We have user-defined trails, user-maintained trails, in a sunrise to sunset, legal binding recorded easement that needs to be honored and respected. The rest of this $750,000 goes to enhance and expand
I
and
must
build
remind
upon
you
that program.
That the easement holder is the Forest Service, not Sweetwater Authority.
Sweetwater Authority
So you need to
is
go to
bound by
Forest
that
Service.
agreement per the land swap. You're both parties to the agreement, you both need to adhere to and respect that agreement.
Our responsibility is very limited for the
You
agreement.
assume responsibility for opening and closing those gates at sunrise and sunset.
That's not true, but I'm not gonna get into that discussion.
That's what we'll definitely volunteer for.
Yeah, we have to run that by legal counsel, there's some concerns, but okay.
Hi,
Go,
I'm
sorry.
Darlene with Friends of Loveland Reservoir.
Yeah.
Here's some ideas that we have.
Yeah.
And I think that, I think we're on the same page when it comes to accessibility and maintenance. And I really love Karen's idea of a facilitator and a charrette. And I would certainly love to see us move in that direction. I think a modifier or a facilitator in this situation could be incredibly beneficial.
We have money, I mean, we can use it to have a facilitator, we'd be happy to take some of that money and pay a facilitator.
Well, I think that there are some that maybe we could reach out and find someone to volunteer for that role, somebody we both agree to.
You can do it as a volunteer basis.
A neutral party that we
Yeah,
could agree
that's
to.
fine. Now we have some money that we can use to.
Well, we certainly don't want to, obviously, right? I don't
I
see us
mean, if
wanting
we-
to use
No.
any of the $750,000.
No, that's not
towards
the
that.
grant money, it couldn't be for that. The grant money is for trails.
For trails.
The money is
Not for
certainly,
mediation.
But it doesn't have
there's some,
clarity.
we have to do reporting, I mean, there's some administrative
Mhm.
expenses that are associated with really any grant.
And-
We're just trying to maximize the amount of money.
Absolutely, we
So-
do too.
So if there's an opportunity for finding somebody to do this on a pro bono basis, I'm certainly open to it, I'm not against it.
If I can just jump in briefly before we go to this, is that, we see in government a lot, there's partnerships with nonprofits and other things, and so it's just a matter of what that looks like, right? And that's part of this discussion, right? Because that certainly is helpful, and it can be, I think, and should be part of the discussion. So that's something that I see. I mean, Susie, attests to it. She does this all the time. She works with, public agencies. That's where she met the senator a long time ago, probably at the city council.
On a bike somewhere.
On a bike route that they worked on through the city. So, I mean, I think the bottom line though is that these partnerships are ideas to have these conversations. So that's certainly something the senator supports, and I hear openness to go through volunteering and how to work those things out. And it's really about what is the map to that. And let me tell you right now, that is not my subject matter expertise, so I don't know what that map would look like. I need to lean on those who have that expertise to say a volunteer program looks like X, Y, and Z, and how that looks. So I don't know that right now, but we should put that down as something to.
Put the mediation in, the mediation.
No, a facilitator and
Facilitator.
and a volunteer organization or group to
Mediation
manage the
sounds
park,
great.
to manage the parking lot.
Yeah, the mediation.
Or sunrise to sunset.
Follow up on that. The volunteers, I think the Forest Service has told you guys that volunteering is something they coordinate. You see a lot of the Forest Service signs say, maintained by, some legal people or some, rancherita, managed by some civic group, things like that.
We were, I think if we're gonna explore that concept, I think without the authority, we'd probably like to partner with the existing agency. Maybe the county, can, if they're interested, if they can run this. We just, just from our perspective, I mean, this is regulated by DDW, right? So we need that agency to agency agreement to, and it's really for liability issues. I think,
We could have a meeting
but
with
we're
them.
open to having that discussion and.
We could have a meeting with somebody,
Sure.
from DDW.
Yeah, if you can convince Sean Sturchy to agree that, approve this. I just, what I'm saying is that there's some very definite rules with DDW because we're bound by being a consumer facility. I'm not saying, we can't talk to them about it, but.
Probably more, if people are interested in looking at an example, Loveland Water District runs Open Forest, and that's a drinking water reservoir that has trails all around it and a volunteer program. That would be a better example than trying to compare Sweetwater Authority to the Forest Service.
And the
Is it a
Congressman,
Levenheim, did you say?
A Levenheim Water District.
Congressman Ice is really interested in exploring the potential for a sunrise to sunset with, you know, whether it's volunteers or whatever it may be, to ease your liability and maintenance.
I certainly we welcome any funding from Congressman to facilitate this. I mean, I think that
Well,
we're really
that's why-
looking for partnerships.
That's not to say that we aren't interested in that as well, but we're also interested in like a volunteer program, right? There are people who are interested in doing it, so we're more than interested in helping you explore that possibility.
We're open
as
to
well.
the discussion.
We have lions, tigers, and bears in our community, and that's largely run by volunteers. So we know, you know, and in their situation, people who drive from downtown to commit their time. So I know that within our community, we certainly have enough interest and support to present something to you for consideration.
So
Oh,
just
so
to
you
be
had-
clear, the two sticking points from keeping, that you're concerned about, to preventing keeping it open sunrise to sunset are one, the Department of Dams and Water, and two, legal liability.
No, I think if you're talking about using volunteers to support and keeping this open longer, I think that the fact that it's a drinking water facility will create some liability issue for us.
Well, that's what it says, so the liability was two, and then Department of DDR.
DDW,
So,
yeah.
DDW, but those are the two kind of sticking points. Is there other
I
considerations?
don't necessarily think that DDW would care either way as far as keeping this open longer.
So it's mainly liability.
I think it's mostly how much can we trust the volunteers to protect the water quality, that's the requirement, right? So that's why when I say that it's better for us to work with an agency, that the agency will take this liability.
Nobody is protecting the water from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., so why does somebody have to protect the water from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., for instance?
So it's not much liability, it's more water quality, which is the sticking
Safety,
point.
water
I'm trying to define exactly what the issues are, so you can address it.
Yeah,
Is it more liability, somebody getting hurt, or is it water quality, or both, or?
Some of us don't understand why water quality is an issue to keep it open. Can
You
explain
think the
that?
volunteers will come and foul the water somehow?
I'm not sure, but we do have the responsibility, right?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
When did the hours of operation for Loveland change? Because I'm a 23-year resident, and I can tell you that the sunrise to sunset used to be adhered to. I can tell you when I came down here today, the gates were being locked at 4:15, not at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So when exactly, maybe you could get back to me
Maybe,
on that.
we're not talking about that right now, so, sorry.
It's obviously a critical piece of the trails puzzle. We need to know where the trails are going to and what time of day they're gonna be accessible
The
for the
program, my
community before we
understanding
even
is
begin to
open,
design
it's
them.
open 6 to 6
We
in the
need some
summer, it's open
parameters.
6 to 5 in the winter.
To what water line?
We're at 80+%.
The trails need to be designed to what point?
I'm not sure, I think there's been some good ideas about redefining what those trails are. I
I'm
think
just
that's a
saying,
great idea.
operationally, I mean, that's, I'm not gonna beat a dead horse,
Yeah.
but we need to know these parameters before we can do any viable meaningful work.
I mean, the water level is what it is now, so.
Andrew, I have some questions for you as far as, I think that, I'm pretty confident that the common thought in this room is, it was brought up about trust. We all came down to the board meeting several months ago, and Sweetwater Authority pledged a $50,000 amount to restocking the fish at that time. We're not gonna hear about that tonight because it's not an operational, so I think the biggest concern here, we all want the improvements. How can we guarantee or be guaranteed that this grant money is going to be allocated in a fashion that is like a contractor draw? That once all of the issues are identified and all of the projects identified, how can we be guaranteed that our taxpayer funds are being allocated and not being, assumed into a general fund that can be spent in, you know, on other projects, operational issues, things like that. I think that that's, you know, probably the biggest concern in this room is there's been a lot of promises made, that we've all heard, and I'm not sure what happened to that $50,000 that I listened to the board approve here several months ago for the fishery stocking program, because that seems to have washed away. From what I understand, the ADA access was something that was approved long ago, and that money, again, was utilized and moved to another. So how can we be assured that somebody is going to be the watchdog on this to make sure that $750,000 grant is spent accordingly for the trail access and maintenance? And John just brought up another point that I was going to bring up. How can we identify where those trails are going to be based on the fact that Sweetwater can drain that reservoir to Deadpool level again? So we need to have some baselines here, and foundations that, okay, there's gonna be a minimum pool, and the trails, the money being allocated for the trails are gonna be executed at X point, you know, based on where the reservoir percentage and count is. But I think that we all need some assurances to make sure that money doesn't get redistributed or reallocated towards another project.
Sure. Well, I think the first part is there are auditing requirements on state grant monies. So that's the first thing. And anybody who's ever received a state grant knows that that's required. So that's part of it. The second part of it is that's why we're here trying to craft a work plan together, right? So that we can go through these things so we know what the benchmarks are, where they're gonna go. And again, that's why I said this could be a much longer process for us as we go through it, from my perspective, right? Which is, we have our meeting here to go through a lot of this. We're gonna have to go to the East County to get more, right? And by the way, tonight, we're answering so many distinctly different things. Like, I'm gonna tell you right now, I've heard 10 different ideas, all intertwined, but I've only heard 3 solid ideas how to spend the money so far, right? Which is okay. So it may take us more time to figure out and drill down on each one so that you have a map, so you can say, look, here is proposal 1, here's what the language will look like for that, here's proposal 2, because then you're gonna need a cost. So,
That's what the charrette does. You
Yeah,
start with
and by the way,
priorities and then you build on that and you give
this
it
is a
depth.
whole, this is a process, this is what I'm saying, we can build out on this stuff. But it's about having this conversation, because right now it's about, what do you guys wanna see? And that's kind of where we are, and I understand there are a lot of underlying issues. I certainly understand very well that there's a lot of underlying issues. So we're trying to drill down at how this can best be used to improve access and trails and other things.
If I may add something, before I get mine, so, you know, Karen, I appreciate your comments, and certainly, you know, this is a start, and, you know, next time, I mean, we'll try to incorporate some of this feedback. I mean, I think that's important. And then to address your question, you know, it's not that we can take this money and use it to fund a tank repair. I mean, there's certainly rules. We need to submit a plan to the Department of Water Resources. You know, if, for example, there's a recommendation to use some of this money to put trout in the lake, right? It costs, last time I checked, $4.49 per pound. So, what's the cost, Justin?
Trout in that lake, because we can't fish for them, they just swim off.
Well, I'm saying, you know,
Yeah.
I'm hypothetical, so I don't know what other fish.
The
you know.
species that were there are good target species.
So whatever that might be, say $5 a
Trout will swim
pound,
away.
for the sake of discussion, right? We say, you know, we wanna use 50,000 for that. This has to go to the Department of Water Resources, and they have to approve it. Somebody's gonna have to decide in Sacramento, you know, trail improvements, restocking, does this make sense? Right? We have to make that case. Once we have a work plan, they're gonna hold us accountable to that. We can't just take the money and spend it on.
So I'm
some
holding
other-
you accountable to the $50,000 that was set aside outside barrier
Well,
for
that
fish
wa-
restocking, what happened to
That
that?
was for, the bridge improvement.
No, it was for the fish restocking, I was sat here at the board meeting and that was decided at the board and approved by the board, it had nothing to do with the bridge.
To go back on this.
What happened to the bridge?
It was a study, it was a.
We're doing that, we're
$50,000
starting that
study.
process. I mean, we're.
That hasn't been mentioned, so
Yeah,
you
no,
just
it's-
said maybe the 750,000 shouldn't be approved for that, but you already
Well,
have
the
50,000.
bridge itself, the construction, that's where the grant comes in. We're not gonna fund the bridge, we're funding the study to see what we need to do.
So the bridge, the aluminum piece that would go there,
Well, whatever
is
the
under
engineer-
$20,000.
How much?
If you match the existing, it's under $20,000, and you need some concrete piers and a couple of timbers. So for under $25,000, you got a bridge.
I mean, we'll have.
Well under
the engineer
20,000.
design it, I can tell you it is. I mean, I hope it's around that amount, that way we can spend money on something else.
And that was paid for by a prior HUD grant, it was in the prior grant that didn't, that was
Oh, you mean the
followed track
float?
accounted for, but that bridge never appeared. Even though it's in the program, and you've tried to file an insurance claim for it. But it never
Okay,
existed.
So
Trust.
maybe I need to ask the other folks in the room whom I'm not sure if I'm on the same page, but would the trails, would all this talk about the trails be worth it if we didn't have minimum water levels? And I don't mean be like you with the lights, solar lights, I keep going back to water. Doesn't this all depend on water levels? Does anyone really wanna hike if there's no water in the lake? There are a lot of places we can hike mountains. I just did Mount Miguel this last weekend. Wow. That's a beautiful hike. I mean, isn't it about water? And why
I have no
can't we
comment
link?
on
It's
that.
intrinsic.
I'm sorry.
Water,
I have no comment.
enjoyment, water, nature, water, trails, water, green, water, beautiful.
I hear what you're saying, but the grant is for trail improvement, so that's
Where?
what.
Where?
So it's okay if there's no water,
What?
is what you're saying, because
Reservoir.
Sweetwater.
So what is a reservoir?
I understand what you're
So
saying.
do-
I'm saying
I
the
know what you're saying,
conversation
but-
today is about trail
It's not a
improvement.
But do you understand
So the-
that if we don't get a little commitment about water, really, is that the best use for, our taxpayer money? Trails in a place that may not have water
Would it
in
be
a year,
possible to get a
they
commitment to
decide?
move the fishing program with the water level? If the water level drops below the existing fishing program, can the fishing program move with the water?
And we can look at doing trails, if that's one of the ideas.
Your consultant actually recommended that when you made the decision to take Loveland to Deadpool. I listened to that conversation, and they said, if you do this, if you take it to Deadpool, it's gonna affect the fishing program. And you know, you can move it, and they recommended that, but you guys didn't vote that way. So,
Yes, you know.
And behind her and Dawn.
Karen, Henry, opened with a great suggestion about, having a facilitator at a future meeting and a plan so that we can really be constructive with all these different ideas and comments, so. And Darlene agreed with that, and I just wanna say, I agree with that, and I don't know how many other people wanna say, yes, I agree with that, just to make sure that it goes on record that that's something that we're asking for, and that you would write down who's gonna be responsible for getting the facilitator that is not paid for out of this grant money. And then the next thing I'd like to say is that this is a very interesting discussion about water, so, I would like to propose that at a future workshop, we develop criterion for evaluating the projects, so that those folks who say, I want the trail that, best supports multi-use, right? Or I want the trail that best supports the fishing program when the water is low. Or I want the trail that best supports the fishing program when the water is high. I mean, there are a lot of variables, and I think if we don't establish some kind of a rubric where people can weigh in, like, these are the criteria by which we're gonna make our decision, then we can, doesn't matter who proposed it or how it was proposed, but we can just come together as a group to say, this is our criteria. And then when a decision is made, it's very transparent about why that decision was made. So I think that would be an effective
Democrat.
use of our time.
We're gonna go to Don, we're gonna go to Don.
Okay,
Thank you,
so
sir.
then I'm-
Is this got a question to you, Andrew?
This is the baseline water for all of this.
Well,
So the 750K, I've got a suggestion.
Okay.
It's a lot of money, but the question I have is, first, is there an expiration? That it has to be used by us?
I
That I know
don't
of.
think there's many strings attached to this.
But it's either yes, there is an expiration, like going to the store and buy a gallon of milk, it's got an expiration date, so.
I don't think there is. I don't think there is.
So right now, we don't know.
We don't know.
Okay.
We can look at it for
Okay.
sure.
That's 750K. I feel from the standpoint, we're coming up with a lot of good ideas, I'm sure we're bulletizing, prioritizing, that's all gonna take place. Okay, so the money is released in phase plans. You know, when we build a ship, the contractor doesn't get all the money at once. And there's built-in provisions, if the contractor doesn't make that benchmark, well, then the rest of the money is on hold. And the reason the rest of the money is on hold is because we have not performed to these standards. And those standards are written part of the grant release, so that not all 750K is dropped at once. So say 50K is dropped for this, and it's requested for, is like you said.
It's called performance.
Yeah, yeah, performance. So that's released in time and manner, but only after those objectives have been met. And we know there's gonna be, you know, we all know about the watchdog hotline, and it can be used very effectively. We don't wanna go there. But I'm sure that the 750K should be allocated in sequential as we go through this, not released all at once.
If I may just add a comment, you know, we need to define how we're gonna spend, we need to make a proposal to the state, okay? We wanna face it, you know, that's fine. And basically how it works is once they approve a plan, once we spend that money, we submit all the documentation, we submit invoices, we do everything by the book, right? And then we get the money back, that's how it is. The authority will probably front the money, that's how it works. Yeah, there's like probably a 2-month reimbursement period, so we'll fund the money because that's what we do, and then we get the money back. We are not here to do anything outside of that plan that gets approved by DWR. We follow the rules. We're not here to say we're gonna do A and then we end up doing B, because guess what? That gets us in trouble. We don't do that. We are trying to come up with a plan that gets submitted, right? It gets monitored. There's a project manager that monitors this, and you know we're sure a lot of you understand we're a public agency. You request records, we provide records. That's what we do. I mean, we do that, right? So it's not that we're here hiding anything. I know there's this issue of trust, and we're just not here to break the rules, to not follow the rules. We're here to follow the rules that we need to follow. So, and I understand your concern and you know some of your comments, but that's just the way it works. So we owe DWR plan, and we expect that you know with all this input, you know, to summarize three options. I have a list from Friends of Loveland. We're gonna now do our homework, you know, take a look at it, try to sort it out. Alessandra's helping us take great notes. We'll sort it out, and then next time we meet, we can maybe try to summarize these ideas, right? And then the next step will be, okay, what works in the context of what we have, right? And if some ideas, I'm not saying that the ideas are, you know, have more merit or less merit. It's really bound by the amount of money we have. Now, if we hear, you know, we really want a $2 million project, we can say, well, we only have so much money. Is there an opportunity to reach out to other partners, right, to make that work? So that's all we're trying to do, right? I mean, there's a lot of these ideas are great. I mean, we can explore. I think there's been also you had a presentation. You suggested a trail from another side, from kind of the back, which is a little bit of what we've been talking about. If it's building a bridge somewhere midstream, I mean, I just don't know how much this will cost. And if we can do it for $500,000, hey, if that's what the community wants, that's what everybody wants, and we can afford it, well, why not, right?
What about a list that says what are the cheap options first? What are the most enhancing list of what are the most enhancing cheap options?
I think we need to have this discussion first.
Yeah.
This discussion needs to happen first.
For instance, the SDG trails, using those, they would, how much does it cost to walk on that dirt? Nothing. So what if we said, what is the most enhancing thing to do with this?
we can look at it.
And,
I mean,
certainly-
that's why we
I think
wanna.
that's why this is happening, right? Because then we have a list of things that we can say, this is what it is. Because it could turn out that there's 15 different things that can be done here, and there's 15 different work plans that you do this. And so it could be that, or it could be one really big one, or it could be one phased out one, or all 15 are 6 phases. I really don't know, because that's part of this discussion that we're having. And so we can go through, because, I mean, otherwise, the senator wants to make sure that it's being used appropriately, not being used in a way that doesn't meet needs of what the community wants to see. So that's kind of what we're here for.
And something else I can offer, at some point, we'll, we're talking in certainly this room, we do expect you to go to Alpine for this opportunity. There's an opportunity to do a field cycles. With once parties, hey, we're open to this, right? I mean, let's go look at it, let's see, maybe we try to, there's a gate there, I don't know what the requirements from SDG&E would be, but I think that's our property, we certainly maybe just sign a waiver of liability, I think we've done this.
This is cheap, this is free.
Well, I mean, it's there, you can see it, right? I just really don't, I haven't been on that trail, I'm sure Victor has. So I don't know what it would take, Russell, to get from, that dead end on one of the spurs.
I've done it before.
Well, you
Yeah,
have,
I got
but
caught.
I haven't.
I got caught, they said don't do it anymore, but
I-
it cuts a huge amount of time and physical energy
I
off a
understand.
guy our age,
And
to
we're
just
open,
shoot up there.
we're open to talking to SDG&E, I mean, if it's our property and they have an exclusive easement, it might be hard for us to do that. I just don't know what kind of
Or
instruments.
parallel
For
to it.
consideration, the California Riding Hiking Trail runs right under the power lines
Hey,
on your property.
I'm
on that side.
open to
So,
talking
it's
to
already
the
there, it's
state,
already happening.
California trails, what's the?
I'm just saying, what they're proposing is already in
California
existence on your property, in the
Yeah,
existing
but
program.
it's
there,
run by
it's
somebody
on
in
there.
Sacramento, Noel, somebody?
John would know who runs the CR.
Noel, somebody from Sacramento?
CHRT.
Noel is moving in, onboarding, taking over the program
We,
for Alexander Still as the
yeah.
coordinator, state trails coordinator.
I spoke to Noel today, and we, my commitment was that we wanna talk to him about this, and if there's an opportunity for them to offer some kind of access and maybe tie in, I mean, it's pretty rugged terrain, but if there's a way to do a couple bridges and tie one to the other, hey, by all means, right? Now you can park there and maybe go around or go up the.
It's not pretty rugged, it's treacherous.
Yeah.
There's no, in 23 years, I've never seen anyone take a horse on, can you point to it, where the parking area is?
No, right
The
over
parking
there.
area here,
Maybe
that's,
that's the
No,
actual,
the cliff is up here.
No, but on that same note, we would
This
certainly
bench over here had
appreciate,
failed.
because
But
you have
the utility easement's over here, and it runs under the power lines, it's very hard to ride because it's bare dirt on the power utility line.
Again, the parking lot, it's almost seems like, an asset that doesn't get maximized, and it's tied into the access to the trail. I mean, I think a valid idea is to look at maybe moving the gate, not necessarily to the parking lot, but more to the trail, and try to keep this open with lighting. You put solar lighting, you don't have to worry too much about it, and it's almost.
What does Victor think about that?
Victor doesn't like it, but again, we're open to the discussion, right?
Thank you.
There's bad things that happen out there.
Yeah, at night.
I mean, you don't wanna.
So I'm wondering if our organization, if our little group, Friends of Loveland Reservoir, were to commit to presenting 3 facilitators to you by whatever day, is that something you're open to?
We'll have to, we have somebody to do it pro bono. Okay, thanks, yeah. I mean, we'll have
Yeah, I mean,
discussion, we can work with Senator.
I'm open to it, of course, but I'm with you that the money should not, the senator would certainly not support that. I'm gonna tell you right now, flat out. So not happening. So, it'd have to be somebody who would do it pro bono and be willing to do that, and given that there's so many pieces to this, right, be willing to go through that. So if you guys have ideas of people, open to it.
Go find me.
Kind of what my role is.
Andrew Hayes?
Well, I'm absolutely trying, and my own role as a
You're bringing us
senator.
together, for sure.
So, and by the way, that's
Bring
our
us
job,
to
being
the
an
table.
ombudsman, but, I would welcome the opportunity for there to be somebody to say, well, what would the senator's office think? Because everybody in this room who I've spoken with knows that we have our own jurisdiction on some of this stuff. Alan has his own jurisdiction on some of this stuff, right? The county could potentially want to be involved, right? And so there's so many ideas here that, you know, but I don't disagree with that at all. I'm trying to do that tonight, right?
But you're doing a great
But
job.
like, there's also other things that I don't have all the details about, right? So,
You know, we did invite Supervisor Anderson's office.
yeah, they weren't able to make
Oh,
it.
I am here.
Oh, you are?
Oh,
Yeah.
there she is. Oh, okay.
Good.
Yeah, I'm sorry guys, yeah, I'm here.
I didn't see you back there. I missed you. You should be up here.
Yep, there's a seat there.
Well,
No, I'm Kendall from Supervisor Phil Anderson's office.
Great.
Yeah, I'm an intern.
You tell Maggie I said hi.
I'm taking notes.
We hope, at the next opportunity, you know, we continue having our partners here and continue this dialogue. I mean, it's 6:30, we still have a few minutes if there's anything else, but, you know, this is good. I mean, I think that, you know, again, we're committed to trying to get something positive out of this. I know there's a lot of questions that I did not answer, but as far as some ideas, I think we have a few.
From the larger trail user community, would the Water District Sewer Authority be open to further connections to outside areas? We have existing Forest Service roads that are still on the ground, need to be rushed out and repaired a little bit, but you can have connection from Lawson Valley, from Sloan Canyon, from Dehesa, from Wrightsfield. There's trails that come in from various points that the biking community, the horse community, the ultra running community, the larger trail community would like to utilize this as a regional hub, as well as the fishing access trails within the program that's still being defined.
John, I think that's a good idea, as long as the trailheads are off property. Because that way, the, control of access.
Yeah,
You know, that parking lot should be maintained by Sweetwater Authority personnel, that's my.
Can I say something? Or-
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're open to that. I think certainly say we increase the access and trails, that's certainly more responsibility for our group, but maybe in some situation where we have a group of volunteers that we maybe create a program and we can work together, I'm open to that idea. So I'm not saying no. I just think that we need to do a little bit of homework as far as our risk
And
management
understand
and
it would
all
be
these
more
things.
locks to have to open close.
But I certainly think that, growing the trail network and connecting it to the existing network, I think that's a valid idea. I know, Russell, you had a great idea trying to connect this area to down here
It's
in
the 2020, it's actually the whole Alpine Community Planning Group plan, figure such and such, but
Yeah.
I'm waiting for one question.
Go ahead.
But I don't wanna end this one too soon, John. Good?
That was fine, I just,
So the
seeing if we're open to that
the
possibility,
erosion-
yes.
I'm sorry.
Under consideration, so
Okay.
yes.
The erosion was a reason for you to not want to let us in the lake, and I'm not trying to bring up the past, I'm trying to say, where are we going with that area of erosion? And for people who don't know, I'll go up one more time. The area of erosion was the reason to lock us out after the transfer, and that's
Yeah, I
right
get
in here,
And the
as far
other
as
side.
where it impacts fishermen is right in here. And so, and yet when the water level's normal, that's the easiest place for us to get around, as I said earlier. So, given that that was an impact worthy of a huge fight to get back into the lake that a lot of us participated in this very building, where does that erosion impact us going forward?
Well, we hope to build a bridge further up to connect above the high water mark,
Mm-hmm.
to build a bridge to get to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, as far as those blobs, those 12-foot, 13-foot blobs that, you know which ones I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Mhm.
I mean, we're gonna have to put a buffer. We don't want anybody being there and just falling, right? I
But
mean,
they're
there's-
below the normal water line. They're below the HUD-funded fishing program water line because the HUD program was already 15 feet below normal, and then, so the erosion is actually from the bottom, from 15 feet deep under. So if we maintain the HUD-permitted fishing level, which is 1,300 feet above mean sea level, which is compatible with a land swap transaction, those erosion spots are never an impact because they're down in the lake bottom where they in some of our opinion, belong
Yeah, so
for
are you
normal
asking that we
fishing.
keep the water above those bluffs all the
That's
time?
the normal
I'm not
fishing
gonna answer that
program,
question.
the normal
Yeah,
fishing
I'm not gonna
program,
answer that
the
question.
normal fishing program
Right.
accomplishes that. But what the question is like, where does energy on spending this grant money tie into that erosion that was caused by, by draining, dewatering the lake?
That's an operation, I'm not gonna enter into that.
Okay, this is very important because that's where the money could easily go. And then it will be back below the water again. So we don't wanna build trails or work with the $750,000 on things that are going to be below the water most of the time. And so,
I think these are good ideas. I mean, at some point, we hope that we can visit the site together and come up with a plan. I know there's, an army of volunteers.
Sure.
So I would certainly think that delineating a trail above where the water is now makes sense. We're open to that discussion.
Definitely even above the 1,355 foot
Yeah.
MSL line and then everything else below the 1,355 foot MSL line, naturally issues are fine, which is what we've always done, so.
Okay.
So that would be a good criterion
A
to
criterion,
include
it's
when
above
we look at the project and
1,355
say,
feet.
is it
It's
above,
above the high
it
water
could
line.
be a
We're asking for
consideration.
things that I'm just not gonna answer.
Mhm.
No,
As
I'm
far
just
as
saying it
commitments
could be a
regarding water
cons-
levels and so forth, I'm just not gonna really.
Well, I think what we're
This
trying,
is
trying to
important.
be said is that we don't want the funding spent below where the high water line is in case in future
I get it,
we get an El Nino
I get it.
that basically
That makes a lot
erodes
of
all
sense to me,
that.
and I think this is part of the discussion and part of the fun.
Yeah.
So I don't think it certainly makes a lot of sense to go below even where the watermark is now, because we just don't know what's gonna happen. So I think we're in agreement on this one.
Yeah, I
Just
think so.
necessarily see.
And thank you for going to Sacramento and bringing this money down.
We thank Senator Jones. I think this is certainly, sometimes you hear about things in Sacramento, but it was clearly a bipartisan effort. I think there was support from really everyone. And thank Andrew and his staff to really really be the voice of all your comments, and we are certainly in a better position with this grant than when we were. So I think we hope that this is an opportunity to build bridges, no pun intended. But certainly it's easier to talk when we have funding available to implement whatever ideas we come up with.
As a kind of boots on the ground guy that likes to be in the field working with somewhat tangible terrain and people, is there a company contact, a point of connection, maybe Victor or one of the reservoir keepers, that we could explore some of these opportunities on the ground within the field?
You can let me know, I'll be happy, or Public Affairs team, Alessandro. We'll listen. I think that now, I know maybe this is an opportunity to talk about next steps, and I know you referred to this
Yeah, we
earlier.
have we have some,
And come up to some agreement as to what's the range of dates that we can have a meeting. Karen, we can take account. I think your comments already have some traction as far as the facilitator. We're open to that. So I'll
well, yeah, I think just kind of the closing here is on what Carolyn had brought just to go through, and I like the closing because it tells us, when we're gonna do this. So it's secure meeting location in Alpine and a date which allows, 3 weeks advance notice. So who's gonna do that? I do think it's probably good that I go and look at my calendar and
Yes.
and the congressman's staff look at their calendar, and Sweetwater looks at their calendar, and the county perhaps, and Joel Anderson's office look at, and then we need to reach out to Forest Service to see, how that, who can work where. So you sent over some dates, Carolyn, so I think,
Just ideas.
Yeah.
though. I mean,
Can
just throwing it
can
out
we
there.
agree, is it a reasonable compromise to say that we'll schedule this meeting 2 weeks ahead of time, 3 weeks ahead of time? Is 2 reasonable, so
2 is
can we commit to giving 14 days notice of
yes,
this
we
meeting?
can commit to that.
Is that okay?
That would work for me, but when you're talking about bringing in partners from
Well, that's
the
gonna take-
county and,
yeah.
and,
Well, I know.
people
Let's-
schedule
out, fine.
Let's
Yeah,
agree to
so-
the timeline. I wanna agree on the timeline, we'll figure out a date, but is 3 weeks a reasonable time?
Yeah, at least 10
Yeah.
working days, because many
That's-
employers have a 10-day
That's
leave policy.
14 calendar
At least
days.
10 working days,
Does
yeah.
that,
3 weeks, yes.
so 3 weeks,
Yeah.
so 21 days.
I was proposing 3 weeks
Does that,
for that.
does that work? Can we?
21 days notice, okay.
I'm fine with it, I mean, I certainly,
I
it's
appreciate
easier on my
that.
schedule if it's further ahead. Well, it'll be some evening, does that work?
Yeah.
5 to 7, 6, wait, what
It'll be 6
works?
to 7:30, 6 to 8. If it's gonna be in East County, in theory, it's closer to some folks.
It'll be closer to a lot of folks.
Yeah.
So
What's
I
your-
think
what
if
are
we
your
did,
thoughts on that?
I mean, it's just for them to travel over, but 5:30 would be great.
You all
What
think?
about 6?
Yeah.
6 to
I'd say 6, because somebody's gonna have to commute, either people here are gonna have to commute up there, to be here.
Yeah.
And I also want you all to be, I also all wanna say to you that it will not work for somebody, and
Right.
somebody will be mad. I wanna just say that right now. I wanna say that to you right now. I wanna say that to you right now.
Exactly.
So,
If we
uh,
have more than a couple days' notice, we
sure,
don't.
that's fine. No, I'm just saying.
3 weeks' notice is,
Even if
is
you notice,
respectful.
I will tell you right now, even if you notice,
Absolutely.
it will happen. So 6 to 8 is the time.
6 to 8, any comments out there?
Yeah, just got a quick question. You was talking about earlier about actually doing a site.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Sure.
I understand about all of us getting together for the next meeting, but what about the subject matter experts, the trails,
Yeah.
the fishing guys, talking about this trails, just having a tight-knit group that everybody agrees on, the tight-knit group being here, and having your SMEs out there, the meeting parking lot, and just kind of walk some of these, like the SDG&E easement,
Yeah.
and just do, that way, we could brainstorm some ideas and then get that floated up to everybody
Yeah, that's fine.
in minutes,
So-
and that way everybody
So
understands.
to do that then, well, here's my question, is selecting those folks, who would do that? Would it be us? Would it be you recommending 5 or 6 people to do that with
I
Sweetwater?
think that
or-
should be on this side, because we know the trails, John's a good advocate there to talk to about who should be pulled in for the trails, and then okay, so he's already done that, but I'm saying feed that in, and if we could just get the top profile SMEs in there, and just do a site walk, and we could look at overhead views all day, but if we actually physically see it and walk it,
Yeah, I think we'll get there, I mean, that's the idea, I don't know if in January we're ready for it, but.
Well,
I'm
I'll
just
just throw
throwing
out
out
there, I'm Karen Wood, Friends of Loveland Reservoir, and we actually have thrown out a date of, the December 28th to go out and hike the lake. I mean, maybe that's a good opportunity to people come out and take a look what we're dealing with and see the challenges of getting around the lake. I've got flyers. We're going for it's the week between Christmas. We thought that it was the week between Christmas and New Year's, so a lot of people have that off. And we picked 9:30 in the morning to encourage participation. But we'll be out there.
Yeah.
Either way, we'll be out there.
It's mainly a nature hike, but we could
It
do a
might be a good
little, it would be a
opportunity.
good opportunity, maybe do a little survey.
Maybe as you're out there, keep this conversation in mind, and maybe it just gives you other ideas that we can discuss in
That's
our
what we were
scheduled
thinking.
meeting in January.
Let
I
the
am-
public
After
tell
maybe
us.
that meeting, I mean, I don't wanna dictate this, but maybe there's an opportunity to go out and meet.
Well, perhaps something, again, this is just a thought, is if we have when we have the next meeting, and we have the, kind of the list of things that, we're looking at, then we determine who should be the subject matter folks, and then we go to the site to look, because to me, there's no reason to go before we have a list of anything that you all have given us additional thoughts on. Like tonight, we were just gathering stuff, and we have a lot to sift through. The next one can probably be a little more productive, and then from there, another goal to go out and look at it, because I'm a visual person, so I'd want to see it, right? Because that's how I learn. So, anyway, just a thought. Yes, sir.
I would think just the first step is to actually get an inventory of what trails are there on the ground, because I don't know how you try and make any kind of proposal without having a pretty in-depth inventory. Like you've got SDG&E roads, you've got user-created trails along the shorelines that people want to use. and I think you've got an access road, I don't know if the public is allowed on that.
No, I think the only access is just through the main, from the parking lot down, and then anything around the shoreline.
So you don't even have a trail plan for the reservoir property?
I don't think so. I mean, it's just
Usually
kind of
the-
a,
It's the quarter mile.
it's just open.
It's
kind of a
quarter mile plan,
It's not very.
There's actually two, there's the existing access trail from the parking lot to right here,
Yeah.
and then there's the HUD plan that was funded, that expanded that both directions.
No, the
on
float
this
strips
shore.
are down, but I think one of the recommendations is to try to just reaffirm that trail, because it's really, you have big boulders sticking out, and there's really not a lot of room, it's actually pretty slippery, and that was, one of the concerns. But it's open now, I mean, it's certainly, just like any other trail, it's use at your own risk, and that's just the nature of it, but,
Maybe
we
that's
don't
a
wanna
good
put
thing for
anybody
Parks
in
and
that
Rec.
position.
Is there a plan? Is there a trail plan?
No, there's not.
There's not. There's not.
With the county.
I think,
With the county.
again, we'll meet again, and I do hope that, maybe have a conversation. Probably know the area better than I do, I mean, I'm a Victor, you've been.
We've got some great
working
ideas
on
I'd love to
things.
present, but we kinda have to be in the field or have maps and,
But that's the goal, right?
the venue to do that.
I think, the timing, I think we're still good, as far as putting something together that makes sense. So, yes.
There are 5 proposals that we're ready to present. We're prepared for presentation tonight that maybe we can do at a future date, and
Is
that
that the
were,
PowerPoint?
that were
I've-
sourced by the folks who, like David Thomas who spoke earlier, and Don, and Russell, and anyway, so I just wanted to let you know that they're out there and they've already been shared, and then there are 2 proposals that are kinda
Can you
dream
send
big.
those again to
I
me?
have them. I have them,
I
and-
sent them to.
Yeah, I've got them, and my perspective is, they're part of the package of
Yeah.
ideas that would be on that.
I just wanted, cause I didn't make sure that we had the opportunity, like, but the rest of us couldn't see it, so I just wanted to make the
Yeah.
point that
Yeah,
at the
I'd be
next
happy,
meeting, if we can share, or if there's a way to share for people to see.
What all of the ideas are?
Like, maybe folks in the room would like to know what you're holding on to, so they can think
Yeah,
about it
let
before
me-
the
Carol,
next
can
meeting.
you
wait,
post
wait,
your
hold on.
ideas
On the
on the
website.
FOLR Facebook page? Would that be okay?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, hold on, I'm trying to drill down on it exactly. Are you talking about the meeting itself,
Well,
or
I
are you
don't-
talking about in general?
Materials.
I was just thinking in general, people are
Yeah, so-
thinking about it now, and maybe there's a place.
Oh, so you're saying forward out from this meeting, what the list is?
Well, just, I don't know, like the,
Can you give us some time,
I'm
Karen,
trying to
just to see how we can maybe create a sub-page in our webpage that.
That would be great.
That would
Okay.
be great.
Yeah, just give us some
That would
time,
be
we'll have to
great.
coordinate and, these materials we can scan, that way everybody can see them, your presentation, your PowerPoint,
I
that's what
think-
we can
We've
show,
updated
I'm
it.
fine with it, these are just materials.
Exactly,
Yeah.
they're just ideas thrown
yeah.
out there, but I think that when we go to the next meeting,
Sure.
if people already had a chance to go, oh, that's a good idea, or,
Yeah.
oh, I like
Let
this,
me-
or I don't like that, you know what I mean?
Let me do this, I'll share this with Alessandra,
Yeah.
as.
I don't see them there now.
No,
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 there's not there now.
No,
We'll
okay,
create
I thought you were asking, could we, and I'm saying, yes, we could.
So you're saying like a website kind of?
Yeah, we'll have to find a place in our webpage, we have a lot of information, we have like our community advisory work group, maybe we just find under the recreation section, like a subsection to talk about, we just call it the Loveland Trolley Tour, that's what this is about.
Yeah,
So-
just the community input.
Yeah, that's
And-
fine, we're taking a lot of notes, I'm
Okay.
sure Alessandra's running out of paper right there,
Several
we'll,
pages.
we'll provide summaries, I mean, that's what we do, Karen, about your comment, we'll take a look at it, we'll make sure that your comments are good, but we're not trying to hide anything, you know,
No, nobody, I don't
if we
think
miss
we think
something, bring it to our attention, we'll fix it.
Yeah,
We're
and
all
just,
trying to clarify, yeah.
just
Yeah, I'm
thinking,
just
how
trying to
can we get
understand.
that done, and you made a great suggestion for how we could get
We'll
that
look
done,
at that,
so
and,
that's
you
true.
know, we
I
can
was
coordinate
confused by
through,
what you meant. I thought you meant at the meeting itself. That's why I was circular.
Well,
you know, Andrew, I mean, we can,
express
there's a mailing list or something we can work through your office, I mean, I think that
I
might
mean,
work.
we'd be happy to, we could actually, if there was a function, Kyle's the expert on this in our office, but there's a way for us, we could share with neighboring, community members and say, hey, this meeting is happening in your area, and do you have ideas? And people can submit their comments. That's something that's easily printable. in our office that.
It's been like all about Alpine.
Well, yeah, or the region, I mean, we have to determine the scope.
Yeah, we'll work together. I mean, I really appreciate Andrew and Kyle's, efforts. We're working together, and appreciate Senator Jones' staff initiative and leadership on this. It's just one of these odd ones where they're not necessarily, Senator Jones he's not in our service area, but he is the representative of an area that's important to us and of course to you. So we'll have to, maybe we can extend the effort and work with Senator Jones, Mr. Senator Steve Padilla as well, and just really try to enhance this. So I think there's an opportunity for that.
Real quick on that, as far as office and jurisdictions and representatives, as far as ICE's office is concerned, Forest Service Ranger Smith and his supervisor have both indicated, and I know Susie worked closely with them, it's kind of important to us to know who to talk to and work through with what. They've indicated that you guys are in charge of the easement. You've indicated here tonight that they're in charge of the easement, so we need to know who to work with to overcome any hurdles within the parameters of the legal land swap agreement between the Forest Service and Sweetwater. Okay, Forest Service says it's yours, so you guys need to figure that out, and we need to know who to work with. That's between your office and your office. We need to know whose jurisdiction is this.
We'll bring the Forest Service. I think it's important for them to be at the next meeting.
I think so too.
If it's federal, it's not in our jurisdiction.
So but I'm just saying,
We have a
between
very
those
limited
offices, we need to
scope
know
in this at all.
whose easement this
We're- I
is,
mean, we're here to,
and who to
you know,
overcome those hurdles with.
As you guys well know, our nexus isn't really much in this, we're just
So
here
they
to,
just
you know,
said
support
that it is.
residuals.
Well, they just said that it is.
Yeah.
They just threw it at you.
Yeah, I
They said that's
I-
yours.
And from our understanding.
I heard him. They
No,
sure.
and from our understanding, the gate itself is unlocked and locked by you guys as well, right? Is that correct?
It is.
Okay.
It is. So it's we'll invite the Forest Service to the next
Yeah,
meeting.
we need to work that out.
These
We need to know who's
conversations
this
we
is,
can
who's
have.
responsible for it.
Yeah.
Because this he said, she said has just got all of us.
I get it. Yeah.
The Forest Service has given us carte blanche to, run the operation.
Yeah.
We do the operational hours. So the Forest Service has the easement, but we have fishing program operational hours. So that's why we maintain control of the gate.
They've chosen not to enforce the easement. The Forest Service has chosen not to enforce the easement, and it's that simple.
Yeah, they've given us
Yeah.
control.
Well, you did it
Mr. Isa
unilaterally
needs to know.
when the Forest Service wasn't paying attention, and then we brought it to the Forest Service's attention. And
Well,
we
either
could-
way,
and we could not get
it
help.
So right now it's rests
restoring.
with Sweetwater, but Sweetwater says it rests with the forest, so we need to work that out.
I'm not
Figure out
entirely
the-
sure. It's just
We have a few
different.
people that are up on that.
Let's bring the Forest Service and we can.
Yeah, which I think, for clarity, so we all know where we're at, and who to talk to about what.
I don't wanna speak on that. I think, unless there's any, parting words or anything, yes.
Sorry, I'm such a stickler for these things.
No, you want some details, right, for next steps.
I see a lot of people taking notes, which I super appreciate, and thank you so much for reporting, Jessica, so we can come back to this, but, I really just appreciate that, we had the opportunity to do this. Yeah, I was upset about the short notice, but we did it, and we're here, and I thank you very much for that. And also, that you're taking all of the notes and that you mentioned providing a space where public input can be posted and maybe the meeting notes can be posted.
Give us some time, I think, usually the webpage it's a one-way, channel.
Oh, right.
Where we post things and if you have comments based on what I've seen in the last few days, I'm sure you know how to get a hold of us. And hey, there's questions, we'll log them, if there's a response that we have, we'll provide it. So, yes.
Go ahead, Nathan.
I'd like to volunteer Kendall from Supervisor Joel Anderson's office to be a contact person who can deal with helping set up the requirements for the next meeting, the facilitator, the requirements, and so if you could give your names to her. You?
I would defer to,
How about,
Anderson staff.
how
or
about
maybe
this,
Andrew.
Kendall, why don't you have Rourke
Yeah.
reach out to me. Rourke is senator, not senator, he was no longer senator. He's a supervisor.
Yeah.
I worked for him when he was in the Senate, so my apologies. Have Rourke, who's Supervisor Anderson's district director, reach out to me to then work on that, because Kendall, while fantastic, we must make sure we have the right communication with the supervisor's office. So that way, somebody who's on staff, who's level with where we're at, can be helpful.
We have a great relationship with Maggie Sleeper and Greg Casman.
So do I. So I'm happy to work with them. Maggie was very well aware of the meeting tonight, so.
Is this Greg's proposal?
Yeah, well, that's what we have.
We did forward that flyer to, Madison, and for, that's
I'm glad that they're gonna feel more welcome in the future. I'm glad that the county supervisor will feel more welcome in the future because they've extended themselves so many times, as has, your supervisor.
Certainly, if
So
we,
it's great.
Russell, if we talk to our own Supervisor Vargas on this, we'll bring this up.
I wonder if you can do this for your community as well.
Any support requires, the full board of supervisors fellows. So, I'm okay with that.
That'd be great to have support for our supervisors.
Well, and by the way, I just want you to know that I've been in communication with Supervisor Anderson's office on this issue, so they knew about the meeting and want to be a participant, so.
Well, I don't wanna, certainly if there's any other questions, and kind of our time's up. But
I'll stick around for anything
you have
that you
anything
need,
else? If not available, we'll give you a few more minutes.
and I'll be, just so you know, for final notes here, I think for some of these things, we'll get the date, okay? We'll get the date, that's 21 days out, so with a flyer, so it's noticed 21 days before. It'll be 6 to 8 p.m., it'll be in Alpine. My personal preference is the community center in Alpine, and so perhaps we can work with the planning group and some others to bring them into the mix. As far as, who's gonna communicate the meetings, I think that's a team effort here. I think it's us, I think it's all of you, and I think it's all of us working together to communicate that meeting. Preparing a packet for attendees, I think that'll depend on the facilitator that you all decide to recommend to us. And I think that'll be important. Then whoever is selected and by what criteria, I think that'll be an important thing to look at. And then, because then I think the facilitator would be able to set the agenda of the meeting, so I think that would be helpful. And then I think determine when and how we'll communicate our progress in preparing the next meeting. I think just know that we're gonna take the dates that you've sent over to us, Carolyn, or you sent over to me at least.
I don't know that
And
we
others.
all had a chance to.
Okay, so then why don't you all send some
Thank
dates
you.
over then? Send some dates over that give you all, opportunity. I'll put those down on the list too, and then the more dates we have, the better, so.
And the facilitator will obviously have a key role.
That will
in
be helpful too, and, that'll be extremely helpful.
Would it be better to put that the other way around? Earlier, you said that you needed to look at your calendar and our
Well, I
other
would-
agents'
what I
calendars,
would-
and then maybe tell us
what-
what works for you all?
Speak to me if I'm wrong. What I would prefer is having a long list of dates that I can then go bounce off my calendar, as opposed to me finding 3 or 4 dates and us trying to, I would much rather have a cafeteria of dates, particularly with my recent schedule and my upcoming schedule. I wanna make sure that I'm available to you, so.
Thank you,
One
Andrew,
last
so
thing,
much.
we didn't circulate a sign-in sheet, I didn't really wanna do that, but maybe we think it's a good idea to have a way to get a mailing list of some sort, or make sure that you can reach out to, or Andrew can reach out to you, we can circulate one of the next meetings.
And I do wanna also give another note here, when you do email me, as of probably starting tomorrow, there will be a automatic reply that lets you know that I'm on personal leave. That does not mean that I'm not going to be working on this issue, but I'll be on personal leave, which means this issue is important. I'll be responding, so just ignore the reply, I'll respond. But there are about 5 or 6 different projects that I'm maintaining, and this is one of them, so just keep that in mind. But I do want you to know that don't freak out, please. So
No freaking out.
you're just gonna get that reply.
When we get the information from you, we'll put it on the FOLR, for
Yeah,
Loveland,
that's a good way to get it out.
Facebook page to further get the information out.
Excellent. Okay. We ended this meeting right at exactly on time. Great job. All right. Thank you, folks.